There is an art form called assemblage. Often, what it entails is to assemble a setting within a box using an assortment of miniature made or found or collected items, and then adding texture, color, and whimsy. I constructed one of these when I was in grad school about 7 years ago. I built a miniature of the living room of my West Virginia home. When the viewer takes off the lid of the box and looks in, it is like overlooking, even intruding, in an intimate scene as my husband and I sleep in front of the fire, he on the couch, me on the love seat. When the viewer puts back the lid, it is as if that small world disappears, as of course our real one was doing. The box has captured a moment of our lives, a time when we spent some beautiful and warm last nights together. When I read today's story of the disciples, Thomas and Jesus, in the locked room, it reminded me of an assemblage. It was like taking the top off the box and peeking into this intimate time as Christianity was trying to find the courage to be something. The disciples were afraid. They had locked themselves in a room in fear of the Jewish hierarchy, the Jews. They were so afraid they weren't even able to identify Jesus when he showed up in their midst. He had to invite them to enter his wounds, to believe in him. And then it happened a second time, this time with Thomas, who would not believe it was Jesus until he saw and entered into his wounds. It was as if the disciples were not able to believe in Jesus unless they had physical proof, even after all they had gone through together, what he had taught them, shared with them, just being with them. They were still in pre-Easter think. They couldn't envision their new relationship with Jesus with grace. Reverend Krista has several times mentioned a reference series called Feasting on the Word that she and I use as a source of liturgy prayers and for sermon assistance. For each Sunday, there are four perspectives in essay to approach each of the readings of the day: theological, pastoral, exegetical, that is, biblical text analysis, and homiletical, sermon possibilities. I tend to refer to the theological and exegetical to get ideas. For the second Sunday of Easter, year B, of the church 3-year cycle, that is today, Dr. Serene Jones is the essay writer for the theological perspective. She is the first woman and the current president of Union Theological Seminary in New York City. Dr. Jones offers her readers a new view inside the assemblage that is the post-Easter understanding of Jesus's understanding in relationship with us. This is to say, she shed new light on a very old story of doubt. First, she reminded me, look up, and she reminded me, and I you, that the text tells us the doors to the room were locked on 2 first days of a week. They were locked the first time Jesus entered the room to be with the disciples, and the second time when Thomas was there with them. Second, she reminded me that it was Jesus who entered the room, but unlocking the doors was not part of that entering. Jesus just became part with them in the room. He made it his business to come to them, they who were afraid and needed his reassurance. And the door was again locked at the second visit, this time when Thomas was in the room. And Jesus came directly to Thomas because Thomas needed to know that Jesus would be with him always. And Thomas came to realize that this being with was what he could count on. This was his Jesus. Jesus would be there for him here on out. Thomas would no longer need physical proof of Jesus. The post-Easter Jesus was with him and the others always. Jesus just was and would be. Jesus' purpose in the room was just to be with his disciples. He made it his mission to come to them, to be with them, then and throughout time. It was his grace that they could count on. Jesus did not need any doors to be unlocked for that to happen. Jesus is always in the room with us. We may not recognize him, but always he is there. Maybe not in the literal physical sense of him, but in the way that his grace, his goodness, his help is always there, in the physicality of someone or something at our side to help us. We post-Easter people are encouraged by Jesus' words to Thomas. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have come to believe. Sometimes it can be hard to recognize Jesus or grace or goodness in our midst. Sometimes we even purposely don't want to see him because it is hard to live in the responsibility of being his. Doubt is a kind of non-seeing, isn't it? A refusal to believe that Jesus is actually with you, with each of us, in ways we cannot foresee. When we doubt that Jesus, his grace, his goodness is not with us, it is a way of staying comfortably on the other side of Easter, pre-Easter, on the other side of the door that is locked. We choose to be outside. On the post-resurrection side of Easter, it takes courage to be with Jesus. It isn't necessarily comfortable. In fact, it can be downright itchy when we choose to do something outside our comfortable zone. Yet, but Jesus comes to us and stands with us and among us. Christianity is an invitation to creativity. When we enter into the world of Jesus' good grace, we have to be able to think new thoughts to solve new problems. We have to be Easter, new leaven, new bread. We have to take chances that, no matter what, that if we are doing goodness, Jesus is with us. He will step in where we are to be and with us, and then walk along with us. Thinking creativity about the myriad of ways Jesus might reveal himself is key. Jesus will not be boxed in. Easter people of faith won't be boxed in either. Post-resurrection people cannot hide behind locked doors. We can't grow if we box ourselves in. We cannot grow if we don't believe that Jesus, grace, love are not with us. Jesus is standing with us. And here is how Dr. Serene Jones puts it. When God comes, we will recognize God's presence in those moments when life's most brutal violence is honestly acknowledged. And when, in the midst of this bracing honesty, we realize that we are not alone, but have, in fact, been always already found. And in the different seasons of our life, Jesus' appearance is certain to change. And we will not always know him, particularly when hardships have given us many reasons to doubt. Yet he stands by us and with us and in us. So my blessing of hope to you is this. May you recognize and be with a Jesus who ever stands at your side, even in your doubting and most brutal times. May you see him at your side, and may he see you standing courageously at his. Amen.